Hey Twilight Zone fans, today we'll be looking at one of the best episodes in the series, The Hitch-Hiker. Written by Rod Serling and directed by Alan Ganzer, The Hitch-Hiker is about a young woman named Nan Adams, who while driving keeps coming across the same hitchhiker over and over. And no matter how quickly she drives or what she does, he's always ahead of her. The episode begins with Nan Adams on the side of the road, while a mechanic from nearby mounts on a spare. Nan lost control of her car, going 65 miles per hour while on a trip to California. The mechanic tells her to follow him into town where he can fix her up with a brand new tire. But as she's about to leave, Nan notices a strange hitchhiker.
It's $5 for the call, $22.10 for the tire, tax $260, whole thing comes to $29.70.
Can we please go back to these prices? Nan pays for her new tire and again notices that strange hitchhiker. But how did he manage to follow her all the way into town? Nan is beginning to get weirded out by the whole thing, and even stranger, she seems to be the only one who sees him.
What hitchhiker?
Nan leaves the mechanic and gets back on the road again, passing the hitchhiker. No matter how fast she goes, where she travels, it doesn't matter, because he'll always be there waiting. Nan is starting to become fearful, because how could this man be everywhere she goes?
Get many hitchhikers around here?
Hitchhikers? Here?
At a diner, Nan asks a counterman if they get many hitchhikers, to which he says someone would have to be crazy to try hitchhiking out in the middle of nowhere. The man asks Nan if she's seen anyone hitchhiking, but she says no. There's no way she's about to tell someone that she keeps seeing the same man over and over again. They'd think she's nuts. It's beginning to affect her so much that she doesn't even really want to get in her car anymore. Nan continues her journey, but when she's stopped because of construction, the hitchhiker is once again there looking for a ride.
Heading west?
No, I'm not heading west, I'm sorry.
Nan is absolutely terrified and drives around the barricade despite the man's warning to wait. Nan arrives at a level crossing, but as she waits for the train, the hitchhiker is there again waiting for her. Nan attempts to drive off in fear, but her car is suddenly stopped on the tracks and for some reason refuses to start back up. It's a very tense scene as the train approaches and the hitchhiker watches on, but Nan manages to get off the tracks just as the train crosses. Once the train passes, the hitchhiker is no longer there. Maybe he got a ride on the train.
He wanted me to start across. He wanted me to die.
Nan now believes this terrifying man wants her to die and will stop at nothing to make sure it happens. Nan has been driving for 3 days, and still, no matter where she goes, the hitchhiker follows. The further she drives, it seems the closer and closer he gets. Nan tries taking an alternate route to avoid the hitchhiker, but her car runs out of gas. Fearful he could appear at any moment, Nan finds a gas station, but the owner refuses to help until morning. She even tries telling him about the creepy hitchhiker that appears to be stalking her, but all he tells her is if she gets robbed, she can come back in the morning and they'll call the cops. What a nice guy. Nan gets startled by a sailor who seems to be a long ways away from the sea. He's heading back to San Diego and saw her car and wondered if she needed help. Nan offers him a ride to San Diego and he acts all shocked, like he would never expect an attractive woman to offer him a ride somewhere.
Do you want to ride?
Are you kidding me?
Well, golly gee, ma'am, I sure would. The real reason she's offering him a ride is because she doesn't want to be alone. Maybe if someone's with her, she won't feel so isolated, and maybe she won't be the only one to see the hitchhiker. The sailor accepts her offer and bangs on the gas station owner's window, demanding to be served. The two get the car gassed up and take off on their way to San Diego.
Say, do you mind if I take off my shoes? My feet feel like 2 hot bricks.
If they feel like 2 hot bricks, imagine the smell. The sailor starts flirting with Nan a bit, telling her the guys on the ship won't believe that someone as attractive as her gave him a ride. Nan is still shaken up over everything she's been through, but I don't think the sailor staring at her like this for such a long period of time is helping. Nan asks the sailor if he thinks a hitchhiker could get from town to town before her, which he sort of plays along with, but he's more interested in staring at her. Seriously, he spends about 2 whole minutes just looking at her. Nan nearly hits the hitchhiker, but the sailor claims he didn't see anything, and now he's starting to wonder if Nan isn't a little on the crazy side. Nan sees him a second time and attempts to run him over. The sailor is so freaked out at this point that he just wants out of the car. Meanwhile, Nan is so desperate to keep him with her that she even starts to flirt with him.
I thought that we could be friends and I'd kind of like for you to take me out.
It nearly works, but no amount of beauty is worth all that crazy for this sailor. Nan arrives at a diner outside Tucson and uses the payphone to call her mother. When she calls, however, her mother isn't there. Her mother is in the hospital still recovering after suffering a nervous breakdown. But none of this makes sense to Nan, because her mother was fine last time she saw her.
Nan was killed just 6 days ago in an automobile accident in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Nan was dead this whole time. After hearing the news on the phone, the anxiety and fear she had been experiencing the entire time just completely drains from her. Nan gets back in the car and the hitchhiker is there waiting.
I believe you're going my way.
The Hitchhiker is easily one of the best episodes in the series and is legit creepy. I had the twist figured out almost immediately, but it didn't take away the impact of it all. There are a few little hints laid out that basically give it away if you're paying attention.
By rights, you shouldn't have called for a mechanic. Somebody should have called for a hearse.
It's cheaper than a funeral, isn't it?
You can say that again.
The Hitchhiker himself is creepy, but he's basically the personification of death. Nan's spirit, or whatever you want to call it, likely doesn't know she's dead, and Death was trying to reach out to her and guide her where she needs to go. But this idea that there's this person that keeps following you, no matter how hard you try, you can't shake them, is pretty terrifying. What about all the other people she speaks to? Are they lost souls as well? Or are they all just figments of her imagination in order to guide her towards her final resting place? The Hitchhiker is based off a radio play that was written by Lucille Fletcher. The idea came to her during a long drive with her husband where she saw a strange man on the side of the road at 2 separate locations. This little event came off as somewhat creepy to her, and she thought it would make for a good story. It first broadcast November 17th, 1941 as part of the Orson Welles show for CBS. The story is mostly unchanged, except in the original version, the lead character is a man named Ronald Adams. The main character was changed to a woman because Rod Serling figured the audience would feel more emotionally invested in a female character rather than a male. Before Rod Serling purchased the rights to the story, Alfred Hitchcock also tried to get them, but his bid of $2,000 at the time was rejected. Even though the episode was based off a radio play, the Twilight Zone version would go on to inspire things as well. The most notable likely being the segment The Hitchhiker and the 1987 horror anthology film Creepshow 2. In the Creepshow 2 version, a woman is having an affair on her husband, and when racing home so he doesn't find out, she accidentally hits and kills a hitchhiker on the side of the road. The woman leaves the man, but for the remainder of the segment, the dead man continues coming after her. The woman isn't dead in this version, and instead it's the hitchhiker who's killed. But this one is much gorier and less suspenseful. It's like they took the Twilight Zone episode and ran it through an EC Comics filter, which just adds more violence and gore. It's still fairly entertaining, but the Twilight Zone version is far superior.
Thanks for the ride.
What really makes this episode is the fantastic performance by Inger Stevens. Most of the time, she's not even doing anything, just reacting while her voice narrates over how she's feeling. You can really feel the sense of dread and anxiety that her character is experiencing. One of the strangest things about the episode are its themes and how they connect to its star, Inger Stevens. Inger had something of a black cloud that seemed to follow over her. When she was young, her parents divorced and her mother abandoned her. At around 16 years old, she ran away from home and began waitressing and even dancing in burlesque shows to make money. At 21, she got married, but her marriage lasted only 4 months and turned her off from the idea of ever getting married again. She would catch her big break in the 1957 movie Man on Fire alongside Bing Crosby, and eventually land a role on the show The Farmer's Daughter, which was likely the highlight of her career. She had a really great career, and everything seemed to be going fine, but no one knew the mental demon she was fighting. In 1959, she attempted to take her life with pills on New Year's Day. In 1958, she passed out due to carbon monoxide poisoning while filming the movie Cry Terror. In 1961, she was part of a fiery plane crash and was the last person to exit the plane only moments before it exploded. And on April 30th, 1970, Inger Stevens was found dead on her kitchen floor. She had taken her own life through the ingestion of barbiturates. Inger often felt alone and dealt with depression over things like her family upbringing and marriage. At that time, no one really spoke of mental health or had the knowledge or resources to deal with it. If she had been around today, then her story may have had a happier ending. But it's strange to watch her in a show where death is constantly following her when the same things seem to happen in her real life. I'm not looking to sensationalize this, and my intention is not to be disrespectful to Inger or any surviving friends or family. I just find the whole thing to be a weird coincidence, for lack of a better word. But despite everything, Inger Stevens does a fantastic job in what is one of the best 20 minutes of television ever put on screen. I do recommend everyone go watch this episode. Even if you know what happens, it's still a really good watch. If you have seen it before, let me know what you think of The Hitch-Hiker down in the comments. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you're having a great day and stay spooky.
She didn't make it. There was a detour through the Twilight Zone.